Hey guys, how's it going? Ghostly Rich here today, and today we're going to be switching out a tie rod. If you don't know what those look like for the V-dubs, they look like these. This one's going to be a Lymphador. I got it from PG Performance from my guys at, PG Performance, and it was from Paul. He sourced her out for me. When I'm driving down the road right now, it sounds like I'm driving a Maraca, not a car. And if you look at this, let's see if I can show you on video. See the amount of movement? Yeah, it's bad. The whole thing's, the whole top end is jiggling. So, first thing is I moved this over. I technically don't have to jack the car up and remove the rim. Apparently, if you have a hoist, you can just do it that way. I'm gonna do it this way, just because I can. So first thing is start your car, turn your wheel. After your wheel looks like that, if you're doing this side, rip your e-brake up, turn off the car. If you have a couple bricks, throw them on the back end. Again, I'm just doing it this way because it's a little bit easier. And how I found out that I needed it was just driving down the road, and as I was driving, the any little bump, you'd start hearing like a metal noise, and yeah, like you could feel it in the steering wheel. It got so bad the other night that when I was driving, I had my headlights on, you could see the headlights, you know, moving from the fact the car was steering every which way, which isn't good. So, first off, let's get the car jacked up. So when you're gonna go jack your car up, I mean, if you've never had to remove your tire before, you have these. You just have to flick them out, just like that. Just stick a flat blade in is what I usually do, like this, and pull them out. You're gonna have one security key, so get your security key out so you can pull out that last bolt. All right, so yeah, just do that, and let's get these not right off. Just loosen them so that way when you lift it, you're not cracking the bolts to get them off. Otherwise, you're gonna hate life if you have to if you don't have a second set of hands to press on that brake. Well, mine's obviously been changed before. As you can see, it's got this clamp right here. All it was squish it with a pair of pliers. It opens up, you can move it. And then on the back, I had a zap strap. I don't know what you'll have there, but probably won't be a zap strap. If it is, cool. If it isn't, well, yeah. So I was able to pull the boot off. I actually just wiggled the zap strap around, got it. After I got the boot off here, now you can see the big nut here, which we're gonna have to get off. Now you can either make the specialty tool, use a specialty tool. Some people just use vice grips, or they'll use a pipe wrench. Depends what you can get in there with. This is completely up to you. I'm just going to try using a pair of pliers, and we'll see if we can get in there and get that done. Now the first thing I've done also is, if you look right here, I took a grease pen and I made a straight line across. So that way when I'm unscrewing the tie rod from here, I can actually see or count the turns as it goes around, because that's how many turns I want to put back in. This helps for doing basic alignment. Again, to get this spot on, you're gonna want to take it in for an alignment afterwards, but this at least gets you pretty darn close. And then if you want to try and eyeball it or take it for an alignment, you can. So again, you can do it with a Sharpie, you can do it with a whiteout marker, whatever you want to do. Just mark it so that way as you're unscrewing the tie rod, you can count the turns, so that way you know what's going on. All right, give me a sec here. So if you take a look here, I've got a specialty tool for doing this, but it's a different style one. There's a few different ones I've seen online. I want to give this one a try. It's got teeth on it, and what you do is you line it up, get it going, and then just gonna thread some 10 mils on here loosely for right now. And then I'm gonna go grab a 10 mil driver, and then I'm gonna make sure this is sitting on the teeth only of this. So you know how there's the round part on here, and after I get it to sit on here, I'm gonna get it to grip and bite on the teeth, and then we're gonna use an extension to get this to bite and pull off. So give me one sec here. So the moment of success, it's moving. It took a lot. Literally just clamped this down as hard as I could clamp it, and then I
pulled it and I was like, oh my God, it just slipped. Nope. I went to move it to try and readjust it and it didn't. So time to loosen this off. Now that we have this side, what I would suggest you do is measure, even if you did this beforehand or not, measure from the back of the bolt, where it's screwing in. So put a tape measure there and measure right to the front of your outer tie rod right here. So measure it from the back of the bolt to here. And the reason why is when you put it in, I know you're marking your threads and you're going to count your turns as you pull this thing out, but it's a good idea to still measure the distance, so that way if you have a different size tie rod or
this red, that's all red Loctite. I'm gonna only be using blue Loctite when I put this back on. Red is overkill,
to say the least. I mean, you really don't want this coming out, but blue would be more than sufficient enough. Red is, if you're never, ever, 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 ever gonna change it again, like, unless you have indestructible tie arms with a ball joint that'll never wear, good luck with that, by the way, then you use red. But that being said, now I have it out. All I did is, as I loosened it, then I pulled back on here, just grabbed and pulled back and slipped right out. Now I'm going to put a wrench on here and a wrench on here, and I'm going to loosen the tie rod out so we can put the new one in.
All right guys, so before I break this loose, first thing I did is I put a tape measure on it from the back of the ball over there, which I know is going to get threaded in to here, and I measured and my blue tape lines up exactly. I'm still going to be counting threads, don't get me wrong. Now, first thing I'm going to say is I was an idiot and I didn't realize this was the nut. So this nut is, it separates from here. So the first thing I did is I used this wrench right here to hold, and then I used a 15/16 to loosen the nut. After you loosen that nut, the tie rod just comes right out. So it should be loose enough now. I don't know if it will be, but I'm gonna not put any pressure on that bearing or on this piece, but I'm gonna put this in here, and then I'm just gonna unwind the nut. And by unwinding the nut, it actually started taking out the bar already. So make sure you have your stuff, make sure you're lined up, remember, and then count how many turns you go around and write it down so you don't forget it. So I counted 20 turns exactly. It was like right on that orange mark, just as it was right there, 20 it came out. So 20 turns exactly for me. Jeez, look at this. Yeah, it was definitely done. I'm able to move that up and down easily. Glad got that out of there, but now the tie rod's out. If I look at this, I can see my orange mark still, and I'm gonna tighten the nut probably just a little bit past that mark. I'm gonna measure this up to my new tie rod, make sure they're both the same, and go from there. As you can see, thread lockers on there. I decided I'm going to do this way first. So now that we have that and I've cleaned the threads out in there a little bit, I'm going to slowly thread this on and make sure I don't cross thread. Again, do not cross thread. That's the last thing you want. So I screwed it in, used the crescents here just to slowly go at it. Didn't even put much pressure on it, just continued, and then I felt it butt up, felt at the back, it butted right up against the arm, bolted the inner turnbuckle back on here, and tie rod, blah. And then after I got that all bolted back on, I put this on. Now there's no torque spec for this. I couldn't find one, at least, and I looked around online for a bit. So now all I did is I put that back on, went on here, and I reefed on her, and it's in there nice and tight. Loctite's gonna do its job anyway, and it's gonna act like a glue and keep it from backing out, but I've got her nice and tight in there. Now it's time to put stuff sort of onto it, and we're gonna go from there. So next thing I did is went into the car, put the key in, put it to on, but not turn the car on, turn the wheel, and after I do that, then I can flip this knuckle and press it up against here, and then from here I can make my mark and then slowly turn the tie rod in. But before you do all this, make sure your boot is on. And then after your boot is on, you need your clamp right here, and then from there you need your new key, or sorry, not key, but lock in right here, your lock nut. So we'll screw that all the way on and get that ready. And that concludes that. I've got a big back clamp on there. The other thing is, if you don't have a back clamp, remember you can just use a zap strap. The arm holds it pretty good. The boot, you're just sealing it, so it's up to you what you want to use. It's not a big deal. Whatever you choose, zap strap might be easier to tighten up in that place. But yeah, now that we've got this, as you can see, I've turned the wheels so the wheels are facing the other way, and now I can line these up and then screw it in using the tie rod. Be very careful, you don't want to cross thread this. Make sure it just glides in like butter, okay? So as you can see, if I look back here, I've put my boot back up against there. I'm gonna put a zap strap back there to hold it on, and then I've got the clamp right here. I'm just gonna put that on here. When you push this back, you'll feel it get stuck. You'll know it gets stuck on something, and then that back boot, you can always look back there and feel and make sure it's sealing up against the block. Once you feel that it's sealed up against there, all you're gonna do is get in there with your zap strap, which will be nice and fun, and then zap strap it up. After you've zap strapped that, put this on here, and then I've locked this in. Next is to put the tire on. I'm gonna take it for a bit of a drive. Again, all I'm gonna do is start doing my alignment, or if it looks a little bit off, I'm gonna get it a little, like, as close as I can. I measured it out, the measurements all lined up, but at the same time, I just, you know, of course I'm not 100%. So since I'm not 100%, I'm gonna make sure that my measurements were all correct, and if they aren't, then I'll correct them to the best of where I think. I'll eyeball it, and then when I get some time, I'll take it into the shop and of course get a proper alignment done. I would suggest a proper alignment. If you want to go by what you eyeball, go right ahead, but in the end, nothing beats proper alignment. So from here, I think I'm just going to leave it. I've showed you how to change the tie rod. Now, if you're going to be changing this bottom end, it's quite simple. You're just going to have a nut on here which tightens up. I only loosen this because I was going to do it this way, but then instead I just did it the other way with the steering wheel because I didn't have to change this ball joint. If you do, all you do is you loosen this, and then there's an Allen key underneath to loosen the bolt. Let's see if I can get that in there. There's an Allen key head right here, and you just untie that and it unscrews this out, and then just make sure you count your threads, of course, when you take it off. And then all you do is screw it back on the same amount of times you took it off, and then screw your Allen key bolt back through, and this is your lock nut. Put that on. So, I mean, that's all there is to this. Next, I'm just going to put the tire on and start doing my alignment check.